Well, we'll see how this goes. I haven't been at this station for film and books for quite a while. The Meadow Book, number 1 of 10. I, you know, I wrote it on both sides, but it's so hard to see. I'll just show you. This is my drawings. I'm such a bad artist. Anyway, that's my house, or that's our house. And there's the pond. Here's another drawing that I made. Again, the pond and natural drains, springs, and dams on Antonsen's Farm, 1984. Still another one. Here's page 100 by now. And this is up on top of the hill. There's a saddle. And then toward the end, page 117, here I started to go through the plants that I'd found growing, identifying them. There's the Latin name, genus and species, and common name. All right, that's the Meadow Book. Not much to see. All right, here's, when I got into the history, this is Persian Gardens and Garden Pavilions. That was my daughter, I think. Oh, I don't know how much there is that I can show you here. You can see that I studied it pretty intensely. Again, my daughter, when she was little. The high regard, even worship of the flowing pool that existed before the dawn of history did not wane in later times. The Persian, they seem to be, that seems to be one of the sources of gardening. Well, not much to see there. All right, what else? Medieval gardens. Well, again, I read it intensely. The cultivation plant, the inclusion of water and a factor of deliberate design. Well, I'm just trying to see what I can come up with that you can see. All right, irrigation in the world. This disappointed me some. I thought, oh man. I mean, it goes around the world. And it talks about the irrigation in all these different countries. But I don't know, it somehow didn't have the magic for me. Water in Peru is so valuable that it literally means money in a local language. During the reign of the Inca Empire, the principles of water use was well established. Okay, what else? Irrigation and society in medieval Valencia. This guy was out of Texas. I actually wrote to him at one point, but he wasn't too interested in my ideas. This was so largely about the social interactions. Now I'd like to go here. I mean, Valencia is on the Mediterranean Sea, it's in Spain, and I'd sort of like to see the way that looks now. I don't know if I ever will. You know, the water coming out of the mountains. All right, what else? Agriculture Engineer's Handbook. I don't know if I... Yeah, there is a section on hydrology, land leveling and grading, 13. This all seems to be agriculture drainage. This all seems to, as I recall, was about heavy machinery, you know, doing, and as I had said, my interest is, or I always look in terms of fossil fuels. Pretty technical. All right, so much for that. Here's a beauty. This I wore out. Farmers of 40 Centuries by King. Permanent Agricultural in China, Korea, and Japan. he wrote this. Well, 1911 is the copyright there. What he did was he traveled to these countries, and it was when they were first open to the West, and he filmed and described what he saw. This is an amazing book, and as I say, the copy, I sort of wore it out, but I can't recommend it highly enough. It's just completely fallen apart, but everything, of course, was hand done. This was done by Rodale Press here in Pennsylvania. Farmers of 40 centuries farmed the same ground for 4,000 years. And utilization of water. I remember at one point in here that it said that they saw rice paddies as big as no bigger than a table napkin. Yeah. Now, moving on to, here's a book that was given to me by Scott and Kathy McGee for Christmas, 1974. And, of course, I read it, and I loved it and all that. But, and I still have it, but here's the first, I think, that I ever ran into water meadows. Water meadows. Designed to place a large land underwater where it was protected from harsh effects of frost during the winter months. During November, water was directed from the main flow of a river and released through hatches into a series of interlacing drains. It was carried over the full extent of the waterside meadows by shallow leader dams, drains, and returned to the river lower down. I'll read on. The meadows remained flooded for the whole of December. In January, they were allowed to dry out twice. Then in February, the water was taken off by day and flooded by night. It was finally drained away in March and resulted in an early bite of grass for the benefit of ewes and lambs, and later in the year, a superior quality of hay. As I say, I think that requires a particular kind of soil. Open drains called dikes or ditches were important in the early stages of land drainage. The Romans introduced them into Britain, however, they are continued to be most practiced for drying the surface of mountain pasture land and in high country where the cost of laying underground drains would be not returned. This is a cool book. It's about much more than just water meadows. But that was where I first ran into water meadows. Then eventually I got this book, and I had shown it Most Approved Waterworks, 1610. 1610. It was funny to read it. The manner of winter and summer drowning. A drowner is somebody who maintains a water meadow. I used to think about writing a book called Drowning as an alternative to jogging, because I spent so much time out there drowning, and I think, well, at least I'm doing something productive. Panage here. But you can see, it was a little bit difficult, quite difficult to read, but I did read it. He was nicknamed, I think I said, the Venerable Vaughan, because he was kind of like the father of water meadows. Now let's see. Fields, hedges, and ditches. This is the one where I had shown you that my mother said, "Hey, look at this picture. I even have a hat like that." To Frank the Drowner from England, 1982, Barber and Court. Court's my dad. Oh, yeah, I remember this. That's a Roman road. This is straight like that. The Romans like to make things straight. The line of the Roman road. Well, oh yes, and enclosing a field. I tried this. I worked hard at trying that. What's it called? coppicing or hedger. Wells and water supply. I actually dug out a well here. I hand dug it. This could have been me. I mean, I actually had a guy help me, and I cleaned out a well and relined it with stone. Crazy without a hard hat. You get killed so easy. Capability Brown. He's that architect or landscape architect that made his name with his use of water. I'm not so fond of what he did. I mean, it was. Let's see what I double marked here. He was gardens and waters at Royal Point. All right, and then finally, this book, Water and Grass. Now, my parents were in Spain, and they took a picture, a couple pictures that I put together, and I saw the landscape that looked like this, and I put them inside this book. You can see here how water is being brought out, and here, I hope you can see this, you can see the effect where it's irrigated, and here it's not. You know, when I travel, now these fields are sloped downhill, but I put them together. This is somewhere near Leon in Spain. And I also have some information about a bus driver. Well, when I was in had the students in Europe at one point. Irrigated pastures, the heritage of Rome. Let's look at page 17 here. Overwatering. Thus in Valais, drought. Oh, I forgot to get. I got another book I'm going to show you because it was in Valais where they have the bysses. Now I don't know if this actually uses the word byss, but you can see to what extent I was intensely studying this stuff. Fontanilli in Italy. You know, this, you might say I inhaled this chapter. All right, the rest of it was real eye-opener for me. I'm thinking about going to the Pyrenees. I should reread this. The valleys of, I'm actually thinking about going to Andorra. I need to reread this if I do. It would be a year away. All right, well, that's a little haphazard. One more time I'm going to show you some books. Bye for now.